play. Mini Wargaming's Battle Blood Tactics.
Mini Wargamer Dave here from miniwargaming.com. Welcome, Wargamers, to Battle Blood Tactics. In this video, we're going to be talking about deployment, turn order, and your critical zone. What the heck does critical zone mean? Well, you'll soon find out. And for those of you who have watched the other Battle Blood Tactics, then you'll know that Ziggy and Ronan left the comments for those videos. Coincidentally, I've grabbed comments that they've left for this video as well. So thanks again, Ziggy and Ronan, for leaving those awesome comments that we can draw from and gain knowledge and wisdom from. Once again, disclaimer, this is by no means a definitive guide to Warhammer 40k tactics. It is just suggestions left by wargamers from the community, an amalgamation organization provided by me, the facilitator of these tactics. Take from them what you will and have fun. If you wish to leave your own tactics, please click on the link below and visit the Warhammer 40k forum. Deployment and turn order. Ziggy says, deploying your army is most commonly the first thing you do besides picking how to play and setting up terrain. It may be a simple concept, but how you deploy your army can make a huge difference in the world. Standard deploying. Mostly, people put the assault squads near cover and as close as they can be. Long-range units all the way in the back, and tanks/transports on the sides. This is a good way to start, as it's a balanced way and everyone's happy about it. You move your assault units closer, shoot with the long range, and move your tanks up and fire. It's an average setup. Counter deploying. This is where you watch your opponent's units go. Then, or at the same time if you're fast enough, so it won't look like you're just purposely doing it. Move your units that can counter his on the opposite side of them, like moving a tank with a blast template across your opponent's weak clustered squad. This setup is very effective, but most of the time your opponent will couch on, and you'll both keep moving units around for a half hour. Happened to me once. If you get it to work, then smirk, as your opponent will have a hard time. If you find you keep moving your units around, just stick with the standard deployment I said above. Check deployment. This is a fun deployment that can make headaches for your opponent. What you do is have a setup like the counter deployment, then split your squads around, but staying in the general area, like having your long-ranged units a tiny bit closer to your opponent than they would normally be, and have your assault squad near them ahead, but hidden. When your opponent gets to move his troops up to defeat the long-range squad, probably an assault squad that's cover jumping, then move an assault with your own assault squad. This is a funny and good tactic to use. It's just hard to hide squads from your opponent if they move around the table a lot. If they do, stick to standard deployment. No deployment. Yes, you read that right. This is a very annoying move that I would personally hate to face, as it's just a blank move to do. What you do is have a lot of deep striking units and then have everything in reserves. Your opponent will usually move his forces into the battlefield, and when it's your turn to deploy your forces, if you've got lucky dice rolling, and then play as normal. Your opponent will be closer and you'll be able to shoot more. If you have deep striking units, just put them to where they would do the most damage. This is a rather mean playing style, and mostly used by those who try to win at all costs, so don't expect a happy handshake and a happy opponent when the game's over. Turn order also affects on how you'll deploy your forces too. If you know you got the first turn, then put your guys as close as possible and run for cover. Assault and short-range firefighters only, as you can get much close when it comes to your turn. If you have an Orc or Nids army, just rush in with everything you've got. Sure, you'll lose some guys, but you'll be much closer for the assault, and you can always spare a few models, as you should have 40 plus or more. If not, advance carefully, slowly gaining ground if you're going second. Then stay where you are with most of your guys, as your opponent will most likely be a bit closer. So you can snipe and pick off some units, and if you know your opponent's range and you're out of it, then stay put, as you can just fire again with no worries. If you are in their range and can move out of it, then go ahead. If you can't, then move closer, as you're going to get hit. Might as well get closer for an assault, but stay out of assault range. This is an extremely basic tactica, but I hope it helps some. It seems to be a lot of common sense in there. To sum that up, put your assault squads up close, behind cover, ready to pounce out. Put your heavy support firing squads back as far as possible, up high, in cover if possible, being able to shoot at whatever, tanks and transports on the sides. Nice balanced army for both sides to play with. Happy handshake in the end. Even the no deployment, that looks like a very fun. I say fun because if it's not done in fun, then it's just done in hate and real killing will happen. Try it out, tell us what you think. Now to talk about the critical zone. Ronan does a very good job explaining what this is and what to watch out for. Ronan says, this is a pretty short and self-explanatory tactic, so I'll just try to get straight to the point. The critical zone is something that's applied more to the assault phase, but should be checked the entire game and represents the total distance a model or squad can move in an assault. Remembering this is very important because sometimes you'll run into situations where you don't want to be assaulted, or you're not sure if you're within the charging range. Now, kicking off difficult terrain is a factor. Most infantry models have a critical range of 12 inches total. So, if you want to charge at an enemy, make sure you're within 12 inches. If you want to not be charged, stay out of their critical zone and move them away so that you'll be at least 12 inches away from them by next turn. Another example, jump pack marines. They can move 12 inches, charge 6 inches, total 18 inches. Got Trike and his fleeting jump pack marines? They have a critical zone of at most 24 inches. Putting the critical zone in mind will help you plan out assaults more effectively, as well as avoid some that you don't want to get into. A very important thing to always remember when you are assaulting or being assaulted, or when you're playing the game in general. It's a very good point to bring up. For those of us who are still unawares of what that is, Let's take a closer look. So looking at this example right here, we have 5 Space Marine Terminators and 10 Orc Boys. What is the critical zone? This area in here is the critical zone. Let's pretend that it's Space Marine's turn and it's their turn to move and assault and so forth. They move their 6 inches, so we're going to move them up. And since we're only focusing on assaulting here, we'll bypass the shooting phase. Now we're going to the assault phase. How far away from the Orcs are they? They are 6 inches away. So they get to move up and assault. It is that simple. Going back in time here for a second, this is the critical zone. That is the distance between 2 units that make up the range by which they are able to move and assault. It's best to know the capacity of the unit that you are firing and their critical zone before you get close to a unit and have them assault you when you don't want them to. Deployment, turn order, and your critical zone for this episode of Battle Blood Tactics, and happy wargaming.
Visit miniwargaming.com to see our videos 1 month early.